If you would like to support the channel, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. More information in the description below. Once upon a time, in a world nigh devoid of life and purpose, a singular creature of menacing power dwelled. Though it wasn't always so, these lands now were unmoving and desolate. He roamed unchallenged and alone. Who knows how many ages this lasted, but it was not his fate to forever be this way. One day, he caught a strange scent on the wind, an odor from something not of this world. In the distance, the outline of a human appeared, a lone man cloaked and carrying a large pack. And the creature wondered to himself just how long it had been since he had seen a human. The strange human sat before the creature and asked if he could rest here a while, but the beast claimed to know the man's true intentions. This human intended to steal his armor, just like all the other humans that came before him. Legend said that the beast's armor could grant power. It was a stupid legend, but the man, the traveler, he said that he didn't know of this legend, and he asked the beast to tell him its story. Though suspicious of the traveler, the beast obliged. The legend of his armor was one created by the humans themselves, and so great was their greed for the armor and its powers that seeming mountains of humans attacked or bothered the creature, and he devoured every last one, becoming known as the Man-Eater. The traveler, still yet unfrightened by this man-eater, commented that it was indeed a frightening tale, and it explained why there were no humans about. The man-eater proclaimed that he would grant the wishes of this traveler, but the man said that he had no wishes, none at all. That was not his motivation for being here. So the man-eater inquired as to the armor the man wore. Was he here to slay the beast instead? To which the traveler said no. He had heard of a monster here, yes, but he was not here to kill it. He was compelled to come here by some unknown force, to see this world frozen in time and to find the man-eater. The traveler asked the creature how long he'd been here. How long had he been alone? The man-eater roared that he was fierce and evil, but the traveler gently placed his hand upon the man-eater's face and simply said, "There isn't anyone left to eat." This gave the man-eater pause. If he was alone, if there was no more purpose for him, then why was he bound to this land? Why was he still here? He'd never really stopped to think about it. He pondered why, over and over and over, and then confessed that he was tired of being alone. He wanted to rest. The power of the man-eater and the desires of all that he had consumed welled up, and from it, hope was born. The man-eater was the one who made a wish. He wished for time to move. The traveler took out his drum from his pack and began to play a song for the man-eater which would move time. For 3 days, the man-eater joyously danced around to the sounds of the traveler's music, and on the morning of the 4th, the beast fell dead. As his body faded, so too did this world. All that remained was the man-eater's armor. The traveler broke it apart and created something new from it, a mask which would seal away the terrible power of the man-eater. The traveler wished the man-eater a good sleep, and he cast the mask away. If you believe this old legend, that is. But that mask did not sleep forever. It fell into the hands of an ancient tribe that used it in foul and unspeakable rituals. They cast curses and hexes, fulfilled dark desires made possible via the deity within. It was called Majora, and so consuming was its power that the ancients themselves feared it. They sealed the mask away in darkness, hoping that it would forever remain hidden from the world. The tribe faded away, lost to the unknowns of a blood-stained history, and Majora's Mask became mythos that only a few remembered. The Skull Kid, a lonely little soul. Once he wasn't so alone. He walked the lost woods of Hyrule, met a boy with a fairy who taught him a song, then found his way here to the land called Termina. There he had 4 giants that he called his friends, but one day they suddenly left. He called to them, asked them to stay, asked them where they were going, but so quickly they departed. He felt abandoned, unloved, betrayed. That sorrow festered into something new with time, a deep resentment to accompany his loneliness. On a dark, storming day, he huddled inside a log and shivered in the cold. But to his surprise, 2 fairies came along and made his acquaintance. Tattle and Tail they were called, sister and brother. Together, the 3 were quite mischievous, but they were happy in each other's company. Finally, the Skull Kid wasn't so alone anymore. But then, things went too far one day, when they came across a lone traveler in the woods. He was a slim, unassuming man, his defining feature an unnerving smile that never left his face. And upon his back he carried dozens of masks, and one in particular caught the eye of the Skull Kid. It was brightly colored in the shape of a heart, with wide eyes that could pierce the soul. He felt compelled to take it, so the Skull Kid attacked the salesman, knocking him unconscious and taking the mask for himself. And then Majora took the Skull Kid. It crept into him, heart and soul, and used him. The pain, loneliness, the resentment that was within him was like tinder that the foul spirit ignited. It started out with cruel tricks and pranks, upsetting the balance of Termina, raining ill-willed havoc upon its residents. All the while, the two fairies Tattle and Tail stayed at the Skull Kid's side. They were complicit in the mayhem being brought, participating in the cruelty. In a short span of time, things went beyond callous antics. People were made to suffer greatly. Entire communities were upheaved or ruined. The corners of Termina were thrown into utmost chaos. And when creeping about in the wilds of the forest, they spotted him. A boy clad in green with his head downturned, and the three didn't hesitate. Oh, hero. Though he was a child, he'd lived years far beyond this. All his life he'd believed himself to be of the Kokiri, and that was torn from him. He had to leave his home, everything he'd ever known, to save a kingdom that wasn't his own. After journeying through time itself to what felt like the end of the world, he found himself back where he belonged, yet he didn't. Where was he supposed to go after all of that? No one really knew the journey that he had taken, how deeply he had suffered, the future that he had lived, the terrors he'd faced down. Some may have been thankful for his deeds that improved their lives, but could any of them give him meaning? He gave them everything, what possibly could make him whole now. He wandered his native land for some time, trying to find a place that he belonged, but it never appeared. In search of his friend Navi, Link, the hero of time, entered the forest and just roamed. Endlessly and alone, searching for Navi, hoping that she would return to him. Where else did he have to go? What other purpose did he have? Oh, Link, to be so young and live through such peril and suffering with no one to help carry the burden that memory can so ruthlessly smother one in. His pain was apparent, but mattered not to the three who found him in the woods. Tattle and Tail spotted him first, immediately reporting him back to the masked Skull Kid. Such an easy target this green-clad boy would be, or rather, his horse would be their target. Tattle and Tail charged the young and untrained Epona, causing her to rear back and throw Link from the saddle, knocking him out cold, exactly according to their plan. Who cares what happens to the horse's rider? The Skull Kid praised the sibling fairies for their work and approaches the unmoving boy with the intention of taking anything valuable that he might have. And he finds a precious keepsake from journeys past, the Ocarina of Time. But Link doesn't stay down for too long, and he doesn't politely ask the Skull Kid to return his property. He actually stares down the thief for a moment, and then he lunges. Taking this as his cue to leave, the Skull Kid steals Epona as well, spurring the terrified horse deeper into the forest with Link just barely hanging on at their side. At a strange tunnel in the forest, the Skull Kid kicks him from the ride, leaving Link to chase them down on foot. There are a few obstacles in his way, things that Epona shouldn't have been able to make it over, yet the thieves and the horse are nowhere to be seen. In his haste to reach the ones who have wronged and stolen precious things from him, Link falls into a tree, a seemingly endless pit that just goes down, down, down. The young hero lands on a Deku flower, with everything still intact. Just what happened there? How did he survive that fall, and where on earth was he now? As though waiting for him, a highly agitated yet calm Skull Kid greets Link with a snide comment about his horse not listening to a word it was told, so he got rid of it. And he mocks Link's shock at such a terrible statement. The outrage of the green-clad boy is another point of amusement, as if he stood a chance against the Skull Kid. This boy in green. The Skull Kid met him once before, in the lost woods of Hyrule. Link taught him a song, but he doesn't recognize him now. Perhaps it's been too long, perhaps he's too far gone in the thrall of Majora. He cruelly plays upon him one more supposed trick. He strips from Link his humanity and his form. He creeps into Link's brain and terrorizes him. In the dark abyss, he's crowded, shoved, chased, and run down by a frightening Deku. The mighty hero of time is altered, turned into a tiny Deku scrub. How funny. The Skull Kid laughs and mocks him, tells Link that he can just stay here forever looking like that. While hysterically laughing, the Skull Kid floats away while the Deku boy gives chase. The sister, Tattle, opts to halt Link, repeatedly smacking him, successfully stopping his progress. But oh no, the Skull Kid doesn't wait for her. The exit door is slammed shut, with Tattle left behind alongside their victim. She wastes no time, however, in latching on to Link as a solution to this problem. Rather shamelessly. She informs him that this wouldn't have happened if it weren't for him, therefore he's obligated to see her return to her brother's side. She will accompany him until he does this. So, get the door open, Link. The hero is not so vindictive that he will reject the fairy's demands for assistance, so he does help her and gets her out of the area she otherwise would have been trapped in. With the Skull Kid and Tail nowhere to be seen, Tattle again latches onto Link with a flimsy apology for a plethora of wrongs he's been subjected to in just the last hour of his life. And if that wasn't enough, then Tattle claims that she might know where the Skull Kid is going, and if Link wants to find him, then he had best take her along. Deal? Deal. The two will be partners until they catch up with the Skull Kid. Learning to manage his new body is a trial, but he's not really weak as a Deku Scrub, just different. In this form, Link can use special Deku flowers to shoot high into the air, he can bounce across water for a short time, he can blow projectiles to defend himself, and twirl about to cut down foes. En route through the strange underground, the body of another Deku stands petrified, a sorrowful look upon its face, all life gone. The story of how it got here, what it was doing, for now a mystery, but something tragic took place. Now is not the time to ponder this, though. There are other matters to see, too. Continuing through the tunnel unexpectedly leads the Deku Boy back to signs of civilization. A water wheel is churning, mechanisms are whirling, but what purpose does it all serve? But through the mechanical clang comes a terrible interruption. You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you? Tattle hides from the man. Not long ago, she had been part of the trio that attacked him in the woods. But this salesman isn't here for the fairy. He's here for the hero. He introduces himself, the Happy Mask owner, who travels far and wide in search of masks. And very recently, an important mask was stolen from him by the imp. How convenient that they've made each other's acquaintance in this unfortunate time. Seems they're both in need of some aid. The salesman promises that if this scrub can get back the ocarina the Skull Kid stole, well then he can help him turn back to normal. And in return, Link will bring him the mask that was stolen. The imp has both of these things. Surely it won't be a difficult task for one such as he. The salesman says that he'll be departing these lands in 3 days. After all, he's a very busy fellow. And he'd love to have that mask back before he goes. This video is supported by patrons on Patreon, YouTube members, and Twitch subs. Want to help support the channels? You can become a patron on Patreon, a YouTube member, or a Twitch sub. For just a few bucks a month, you can help keep the channel going and get a couple cool perks while you're at it, like supporter-only streams, extra and early content, and your name in the lore video credits. Check the description of the video for more information on how to support the channel. And while you're at it, why don't you come see us in the Discord too? Or find me on one of those other social media platforms that the kids are so into these days. But that's enough from me. Thank you for watching the video, and let's get back to the lore. "72 hours remain. Link is in some place called Clocktown, but he's never heard of a settlement this far into the forest, and there are faces here that are not recognizable. Strange that a place like this could exist in Hyrule and he'd never heard of it. Tattle tells Link that first and foremost they should go see the Great Fairy in town. She watches over everything, and if anyone knows what the Skull Kid is up to, it's her. Rather than try to find leads and make acquaintances, Link heads straight for the north part of town, to the residence of the Great Fairy, but finds that this great powerful being has been broken into fragments of herself, and it was the Skull Kid who did it. How did he become so powerful that he was able to do this? Because tricks and pranks are one thing, turning a Hylian into a Deku Scrub is another, but shattering the Great Fairy of Clocktown into pieces? That's an entirely different level of power. This is a shock even to Tattle, who's been hanging out with the ruffian for quite some time. But the fragments of the Great Fairy remaining here in the pool ask them to find a way to return a stray fairy from within Clocktown. That will remedy the situation by making her whole again. In the search about town, Link comes across several familiar faces, like the mailman, the crazed man from the windmill in Kakariko, Anju the Cuckoo Keeper, Talon and Ingo, the lovers from Hyrule City, but none of them recognize him. And they're all doing different jobs, living different lives here. They're not the same people, yet they're so similar. This is all so strange. He finds the stray fairy eventually, and returns it to the fountain. Now returned to her proper form, the Great Fairy admits that she thought the Skull Kid was a helper, though she was gravely mistaken. To thank and aid Link, she gives to him the ability to use magic. Though she does not know where the Skull Kid is, she directs him towards the man who lives in the observatory just outside of town. He may know more. Because of his current shape and lack of a sword or shield, the guards of Clocktown will not allow the child Deku Scrub to leave the city. It's far too dangerous out in the fields for him to be out unsupervised. A bit demeaning towards the hero of time, but they don't know any better. So the search for the observatory must continue within city limits. The Deku Scrub comes across the leader of a supposed gang called the Bombers Secret Society of Justice, a boy named Jim. Seems these bombers have a little hideout they frequent, which leads directly into the observatory, a secret tunnel within the city. Jim makes a wager with Link, find all the bombers in a game of hide and seek, and they'll give him a passcode to get through the gang member guarding the way through. Not really the time for games, Jim, but he seems to have a snide attitude towards Link as a Deku, so there's not much choice. He has to play along. While running around Clocktown to find all the bombers, Link meets another Deku. This one's a vendor who has his own Deku flower right beside Clock Tower in the heart of town. It's private property, and he rudely shoos Link away. But the Clock Tower it's awfully tall, and if Link wants to climb it, he might need that flower to shoot him high enough in the air to reach it. You know, what if he just made the Deku Man disappear? He does find all the bombers eventually, fair and square, playing along with them in their little game. They won't give a membership to their gang, no scrubs allowed and all that, but just this once they'll give him the code to get him into the hideout. Best keep note of it if you don't want to have to play this game again. With their little wager concluded, Link can finally get into that observatory. Through the tunnels, Link finds the keeper of the observatory, another familiar face but a new acquaintance. The old man is distraught, a bit upset, because the other day a troublemaker was in the observatory and threatened to break his equipment, and threatened to steal his valuable moon tier. The evildoer is probably out there causing more mayhem as they speak, and he tells Link to spy through the telescope at the clock tower. Sure enough, there's Skull Kid, high atop the tower, looking at something. Mother of God, that moon has a face. Is that the moon? It has a face, right? There's a lot to unpack here, and something just fell from its eye. It landed outside the observatory. Oh, that's just rude. What fell from the apparent eye of the moon was another tear. It's dazzlingly lovely, and surely worth a fortune as well. Maybe we could just kill the Deku Man. Now Link knows where the Skull Kid is, atop the large clock tower, but how does he get up there? The Happy Mask salesman said that he only had 3 days until he departed, and one has already passed, so maybe that Deku flower? Kill the one that cranky adult Deku was guarding as private property. Maybe he would be willing to exchange his spot for the moon tier. Well, as luck would have it, the Deku Man has been searching for just such a thing, something that he can take home to his wife. Lucky, lucky, lucky day for both of them. It's a fair and square trade. Link can have the Deku flower, and Deku Man can leave Clocktown with a lavish gift for his wife. Tattle lets Link know that the tower only opens up once a year, at midnight on the eve of the carnival. So Link has some time to wander Clocktown and take in the sights before confronting that scoundrel. The next morning, the exploration begins. Link hears from a juggling duo the rumors about a kidnapping that took place to the south. But don't worry, the kid woke up. He goes to a couple local game parlors to try out some new fun. After all, he is still a kid. At the Stockpot Inn, he's welcome to look around and socialize, but there are no rooms or beds left to rent, with the carnival just around the corner. He listens to an elderly woman as she reads him a story about the carnival, chats with the frustrated dancers upstairs, finds a milk bar that only adults are allowed to be in, and then chances into the mayor's abode. In his office, there's a tense argument taking place between city guards and the carnival committee. The captain of the city guard is trying to get the mayor to issue an order for citizens of the city to flee. Public servants and committee members are duty-bound to remain, and it's a death sentence. The moon is sure to crash soon. Which, wait, what? Did he say crash? But the leader of the committee insists that that's nonsense. Does the captain really believe that the moon will fall? Citizens who did flee caused an unnecessary panic, and the real threat isn't the moon, it's what's outside of the city walls. The two parties go at one another, arguing circles, and the spineless mayor is of no help. He just hums and hums his way through things, refusing to take a stand for anything. Link spends the rest of his day and night roaming the city, checking out shops, checking in with performers and merchants, but on the third day, the inhabitants of the town, they're being odd. The owner of the Stockpot Inn tells Link that they're going to be fleeing like the others, but fleeing what? The guards have their hands over their chests staring at the sky, and they beg Link to go find his parents so that they can escape. The town is a bit more empty. Everything is tense. The man with the carnival committee had said something about the moon falling, but the moon falling, that just can't be true, right? The strained day fades into a suffocating night. Public servants were not given the order to flee. Children still wander about. A few vendors remain, and the ground is starting to shake. The closer it draws to midnight, the more potent the fear becomes as a roar starts to bellow through the lands. And at midnight, as planned, fireworks erupt for no one in particular. What would be the commencement of a grand carnival is met with silence below. But as is customary, the clock tower shifts and opens up, allowing for foot traffic to reach the platform over the town. The only one to climb it is Link, and atop he finds the Skull Kid. But a far more sinister presence he is now, just floating effortlessly, gazing at the massive moon in the sky. Tattle calls to her friend and tells him that maybe it's time to stop, to give the mask back, return what they stole. But it is her brother Tail who answers, begging them to find the four, in the swamp, mountain, ocean, and canyon, to bring them here. And to answer Tail's outburst, the Skull Kid strikes him, to the shock of Tattle. He had never hurt them before. They were supposed to be friends. What was the Skull Kid doing? But whoever these four are, it's far too late for that now. It's almost a joke to him. He challenges them. If this is something that can be stopped, then go ahead. Just try to stop it. The Skull Kid raises his eyes to the sky and begins to call the moon. He begins to pull the moon down to the earth, and a countdown begins. 5 minutes until impact. He has no weapons and only a few abilities. All the Deku Scrub can do right now is just try to hit him with something. He blows a bubble at the Skull Kid, and it's just enough to get him to drop the Ocarina of Time. But nothing Link does will actually stop what is taking place. He may be the hero of time, but stopping this is impossible. Finding a moment of peace amidst the chaos, he retrieves the Ocarina and he remembers back to before he left Hyrule, when he told Zelda that he was going to be departing, at least for a time. And though sad, she didn't try to stop him or to change his mind. She promises to never forget the days they spent together, and she gifts him the Ocarina and the Song of Time, with a vow that should he ever need help, he need only remember that melody. Link departed from Hyrule Castle with a prayer from the princess that his journey be a safe one, and a hope that one day they would meet again. In a desperate attempt to stop encroaching destruction, Link plays the Song of Time, beseeching the Goddess of Time for aid in this final hour. And something answers. Time begins to reverse. Memories of 3 days prior play out. The struggle with the Skull Kid, falling through that endless tree, being turned into a Deku Scrub, allying with Tattle, finally stopping at the dawn of that fateful day, 3 days before doom. Clocktown has reverted back to when Link originally arrived. Link and Tattle remember what happened atop that tower, but no one seems bothered by anything, and the moon is once again high in the sky. It's absolutely clear now that this is not Hyrule. Link does not know these people, and even if he could leave this land, return to Hyrule, he cannot just do that. These people are going to die if he doesn't do something. This is a new mission. It's a new purpose, a new calling. What he lost in Hyrule, he has found here in this place called Termina. Now, that weird Happy Mask salesman, he had said that if Link could retrieve the precious object stolen from him, then he would help him turn back to normal. And Link did get his Ocarina. The salesman had also asked him to get back the mask that was stolen from him, but, one step at a time. The first stop is that salesman inside the clock tower. And as soon as he sees the Ocarina, he jumps to conclusions. Link has succeeded, gotten back what was taken from both of them. But hold on a second, wait a minute, does the Happy Mask salesman remember? Does he remember talking to Link, remember their deal? Because everyone else forgot. Everything reset, but the salesman didn't. Is he truly not from Termina then? Yet Tattle remembers their previous cycle too. Just what is this man that he could be immune to the reset and casually possess something like Majora's Mask? One has to wonder, what's beneath the mask of the Happy Mask salesman? To honor his end of the bargain, he teaches Link a haunting melody, the Song of Healing. This melody heals evil magic and troubled spirits, turning them into masks. It soothes the spirit within the Deku Mask, allowing Link to remove it freely. Termina is a land of broken hopes and sorrow. This melody will be of great use in the future. The salesman gifts Link the Deku Mask to honor this day. Whenever the hero wears it, it will change him into his Deku form. Now, it's time for Link to honor his end of the bargain. The mask, Majora's Mask. He would like it back now. Because he did get it back. Didn't he? News that Majora's Mask has not been recovered drives the unnervingly grinning man into a full meltdown of panic. He completely breaks his composure and wails that something terrible will happen if it's not returned. And in an effort to make Link understand the importance of this errand, he tells him a bit about the mask's origins. The salesman knows that this mask is cursed, a terrible relic of an ancient tribe with a blood-stained history. Power is bestowed upon whoever wears it, a magic so indomitable that it could bring about the end of the world. Ancient beings were so frightened by it that it was sealed away in shadow. In time, the tribe of legend that used the mask faded away, and the true extent of the mask's power was left unknown, that is, until now. The salesman confesses that he went to great lengths to obtain this mask, but does not confess as to how precisely he did it. When he had his hands on it, he could sense doom within it like a dark omen, and he begs of Link to get it back before something truly horrible happens. And of course, the hero agrees. The salesman knew that he would. With this agreement struck, Link checks out into the world of Termina to undo the evil brought to these lands by the Happy Mask salesman. It's time to get that mask back. Tattle is beginning to understand what's overtaken her once companion, that mask. It's the source of all this trouble. Her brother Tail had told them to bring the four here, from the swamp, mountain, ocean, and canyon. The locations will be easy enough to find, but what Tail meant by the four who are there is a bit of a mystery, one which there is only one way to solve, which is to go there and investigate. First stop is the swamp through the south gate, and this time Link has a sword and a shield to protect himself, meaning the guards won't stop him. Clock Town lies at the heart of this strange land, with each direction leading to a new territory. They trek out through the southern gate, and not far beyond the safety of the city, the duo come across part of the Skull Kid and Tattle's past. She and her brother had drawn this back when they first met the Skull Kid, before things became dark, before the mask. They had found him shivering in the cold during a storm. He told them he was alone and that his friends had left him, and the three of them decided that they would stay together. And for a time they were happy. They spent their days playing in the fields, getting into innocent enough mischief, exploring the forests. But that happy time ended when they attacked the Happy Mask salesman in the wood and stole Majora's mask. It's a confession to how they came to possess the mask. They had no right to take it, and it has caused so much trouble. The progression of it all, Skull Kid's descent into what he's become, it still doesn't make sense to Tattle. They leave the memory there, and they move on to the swamp. At first glance, nothing is clearly off within the swamp, save an odd peak in the distance that's oozing something purple. There's a boat and photography tour available that's interesting enough, and a potion shop with another familiar face from Link's past, one of the twin sorceresses from the Gerudo Desert. She doesn't start flinging ice magic at Link when he walks in the door. This actually looks like a legit shop. The apparent shopkeeper tells Link that her sister went into the woods out to find mushrooms and she never came back. She asks Link to go track her down. Kind of strange to be talking to one of the twin sorceresses, even stranger to see her working in a shop. But better than the alternative of rampaging ice beams. The other sister is deep in the woods behind the house, laying on the ground, calling out for help with two monkeys at her side. They dash off at its approach, and the old woman says that something attacked her from behind while she was picking mushrooms. But it wasn't the monkeys, no, they were protecting her. It was the Skull Kid. A healing potion will get her back on her feet. A little bit of medicine is just what she needed. It gets the old gal back on her broom and back to work. And those monkeys that were at her side in the woods, they greet Link at its exit, telling him that one of their brothers trekked into the swamp to find a temple that poison was flowing out from. But their brother was captured by the Deku in the nearby palace, and they're terribly concerned for his safety. Well, if that missing monkey brother knows something about a poisoned temple, then they need to go find him ASAP. Closer to the Deku Palace, there is indeed something fetid flowing into the water, and the palace is on lockdown. No strangers allowed in, only Deku. Thankfully, that's not an issue for Link. Within the royal chambers, something ghastly is about to take place. The missing monkey is tied up and about to be tortured. The king's daughter has gone missing, and the blame for her vanishing is being placed upon that monkey. His torment is going to be a public affair for all Deku to witness, but the monkey himself has a very different story to tell. He claims that he did nothing to the princess, and that if they don't act quickly, then the princess is going to fall victim to a monster. Finding a way into the monkey's holding pen scores Link a more private conversation with him. He doesn't have long to talk, but he tells Link that he went to Woodfall Temple above the waterfall in the swamp to check out the source of the poison flowing into the waters, as did the Deku princess, and he saw her get captured by the monsters that were now inhabiting the temple. If someone doesn't go up there and help her, then she'll never make it out alive. It's up to Link now to save her and cleanse this swamp, and to aid him, the monkey will teach him the melody to open up the temple. It's a song that only the Deku royal family knows, making it apparent that the monkey is a friend of the princess. But the bull-headed king of the Deku refuses to listen to reason, and the torturous punishment of the monkey will begin soon. Link had best hurry to that temple. The Deku Princess isn't the only one depending on him now. The path to the temple is impassable to all save those who can use Deku flowers, meaning outsiders are effectively kept out. But there are more helpers to be found, even here. A familiar face from a faraway land is nearby. Though, of course, it's not the same being as from past times. The great owl Link once knew as the Sage Raru, or Kapora Gabora, sits atop a statue holding its semblance. The owl will offer this strange new hero some help. Using these statues will allow Link to quickly move across areas that he's already been to. Not bad. But there's little more that he offers, at least for now. No words of prophecy or story, just simple aid in his journey, and then he's off. Ensuring the temple can't be encroached upon, the entrance lies beneath the pools of its courtyard, and only the song of the Deku royal family can open the way forward. The guardian of this temple is missing, allowing it to be infested with creatures that do not belong. The stench of decay permeates the temple. It's dark, gloomy, full of monsters, just like the monkey warned. He has to use a balance of his human and Deku form to make it through the many dark halls and chambers, locate and utilize a bow and arrow in the guts of the temple to open up paths. It's a rather lonely affair for the two. This is hostile territory to anyone who's not a Deku. Link doesn't have a lot of equipment or vitality to work with, and there are creatures here that he's never encountered before. It takes hours of fighting and searching before he finally makes it to the doors of what has been blighting the swamp. Adolwa, a terrible deity of Woodfall, the evil spirit who has sealed away the guardian of this temple, captor of the Deku Princess, and the source of all the chaos and toxicity. He wields a great sword and a shield and gracefully dances about the arena, leaving Link to frantically stop him from afar while also trying to close the gap between them. He is a worthy opponent and truly something to be feared. His swordplay is brutal and aggressive. He uses insects within the temple to further impede the boy's attacks. But Link is still the hero of time, and eventually, he bests Adolwa. A mask is left behind in Adolwa's wake, a vessel containing its foul spirit, now safely locked away. But it seems that it wasn't only the monkey and the princess that were relying on Link to slay Adolwa. Also freed is one of the giants that protects this land, one of the Skull Kid's old friends. It stays far away from Link in this strange place between realms, and it speaks in a way that Link does not understand. But the giant is able to teach the boy a melody. It too is a haunting song, the Oath to Order. Though it's not yet apparent how, this song will serve a greater purpose later. Tattle is able to make out a few words from the giant before it departs. "Call us," it says. And with that, their meeting ends. But now, time to celebrate. The waters of the swamp run clear once again, the temple is restored. Tattle pieces together that the four which her brother spoke of, that guardian must be one of them, which means there are 3 more that they must find around Termina. The importance of this mission has been fully set upon Tattle, and she genuinely apologizes for the troubles that she has helped cause. She kinda misses her landing at the end by insisting that Link doesn't hold it against her, but, it's progress, at least. Their next stop should be the mountains. But first, the Deku Princess is free. She's sweet as pie to Link, and after he tells her what's been happening to her friend the monkey, she asks him to whisk her back to her home. She just knew that her father was going to act the fool after she went missing. They have to save that monkey. Link carries her away from the temple and sees her safely return to her home. She is able to stop the torment of her friend, the monkey, and set the record straight on what took place. But so much time has already passed. It's well into the 2nd day already, and there are still yet 3 directions to explore. So, Link decides to return to Clocktown to check in on folks. They've done so much work. Maybe things have improved in town since the last time they were there. When they ride in, they find that, things seem almost exactly the same. People see the moon in the sky, but they've done nothing different. Link enters his bomber gang code at the bouncer, checks out the observatory, obtains the bomber's notebook. He checks out the Stockpot Inn, but it's like, these people aren't even aware that the moon is going to fall. The carnival committee's leader is in the town square yelling about cowards in his disgust. In the end, his workers flood the town, leaving him here alone to see the opening of the clock tower. During the final night, when the clock strikes 12, the clock tower drops open and once again reveals the pathway up to the center. The hero and Tattle make their way up and once again confront the Skull Kid, the mask, Majora. It plays out precisely the same as it did last time, even with the additions to Link's arsenal. None of it makes a dent in the Skull Kid, but this time, Link plays the Oath to Order, the song that the Guardian taught him. Link and Tattle haven't freed the other Guardians, but this is all they have. Maybe it will make a difference. From the swamp, one guardian answers the call. The guardian runs to the clock tower, raises its arms, and tries to hold back the moon. There's no answer from the mountain, the ocean, the canyon. The swamp guardian tries alone to stop the apocalypse, but it's not enough, and a countdown begins. They failed. Link must rewind time, return to the first day. But with the swamp cleansed, the guardian freed, the Deku people made safe, perhaps things will be better this time around. The waters will surely be safe, the monkey will not be tortured, the princess will be with her father, the temple will be cleared. But that's not what happens. Link rewinds time, and all of it is undone. The Mask of Adulwa is still his, but the temple is corrupted. The Deku Princess is gone, the monkey will be tortured, the king enraged and frightened. The waters of the swamp are once again ridden with poison. Every good thing that Link has done has been reversed, undone. But he cannot go back to the swamp to save them. There's just not enough time. How could he do that and go to the mountain as well? He must harden his heart, not think about the torture of the monkey, not think about the fear of the Deku Princess. They have to find the next guardian. They must leave the swamp to its suffering. Tattle recommends that they next travel to the north, to the snow-capped mountains. It's dangerous to be sure, but it's also scenic. It's a lovely route that far exceeds the wonders of Death Mountain back in Hyrule. Boy, it sure is snowy though. Who could possibly call this place home? About halfway up the mountain is a tiny village, serenely covered in snow. There's a cute little bridge over a stream, a picturesque cabin, and there's a Goron in the snow. Why is a Goron on a snowy mountain? Oh no. This mountain clearly is not in the state that it's meant to be. The cabin here is actually a blacksmith shop, and their hearth is completely frozen over. The Goron atop the ledge is freezing and starving, but there's nothing here that clarifies why this mountain is covered in snow. So, Higher Link must climb to find his answers. Most water sources are completely frozen solid, and the road up to the mountain is plagued by wild animals that attack on sight. But Link's fears are confirmed eventually when he reaches another village, the home of the Gorons. These are not people that live in cold climates, at least not in his experience, so why would their home be nestled here of all places? Well, this snowfall is a very recent development. In the Goron city, the only place accessible to him right now is the shrine, where a baby is crying non-stop. At first it's a tragic sound, but whoever is weeping is proving themselves to be a non-stop source of sorrowful bellowing. The little creature responsible for the grating noise is the son of the village leader, the Goron elder who has gone missing. The child is cold and crying for his father, who is nowhere to be found. The elder went into the snow to investigate what was happening at the temple atop the mountain, and he never returned. But Link didn't encounter an elder on his way up here, and there's only one path up the mountain to the village. The elder was nowhere to be seen, like he just vanished off the face of the earth. Back out in the cold, Link comes across that owl again. He offered him help once before, and he does so here as well. The owl says that across this chasm near the Goron village is an item that will allow Link to see what the naked eye cannot. The great owl aids Link once again by leading him across that chasm, acting as a guide on where is safe for him to traverse. Several leaps of faith later, Link finds himself at a shrine, and within is the Lens of Truth. Once used to uncover the secrets of a dead place, now it will help prevent the death of this mountain. It aids Link in seeing what was once invisible to the naked eye. It can help him traverse the chasm back to the Goron village, but he doesn't make it far before the lens reveals a great new tragedy. A ghostly figure looms in the Goron village, its belly torn open from a vicious wound. He can't quite believe that Link can actually see him. As a test of this, the ghost asks Link to follow him. He leads him way back down the mountain to that lovely little village with the blacksmith shop, and then goes up the face of the cliff covered in hidden ladder segments. And atop it is a monument to a fallen Goron hero. This ghost is Darmani III, and this is his gravesite. He knows that he's dead. He's under no illusion. His final act in life was traveling to Snowhead, the apex and temple of the mountain, where a demon was now residing. He just knew that within Snowhead was the source of all this snow, and that if he could defeat it, then he could save the Goron homeland. But he didn't survive the journey. The Great Owl has told Darmani that the one who could use magic would find him soon. He had to have meant Link. So he begs of the boy to heal his sorrows, to bring him peace, to let him rest. And of course, the gentle hero plays for him the song of healing, meant just for beings like Darmani. The soft notes of the melody soothe his soul and bring him a peaceful, lingering moment surrounded by his people. Perhaps a time long past, but a good place to linger on, surrounded by those that he treasured. Darmani is able to pass on now, knowing that the fate of his people rests in the hands of someone who can do what he could not. He leaves for the hero a mask that will allow Link to take his form when worn. It will aid him in the mission to come. That crying child, though, it still troubles Link. So, before departing for Snowhead, he returns to the Goron village once more to try talking to the toddler in Goron form. Seems that the little guy recognizes him as Darmani, and for a moment his tears stop. He asks where his father is, he just wants his father, and then once again his sobbing resumes. Well, the elder didn't make it far, in fact. A short ways down the mountain, the cold overtook him, encasing him in ice. This is not a mission that he's up for, but the security of his people demanded that he take action somehow. Seeing Darmani is a surprise, one that takes him a moment to overcome, but news of his weeping son stops his disbelief. How long has he been gone? What's been taking place at the Goron village in his absence? The elder no longer cares who or what this Goron before him is. He can't abandon his mission, but his heart won't let him ignore the cries of his child. So he teaches Link part of a lullaby that he would play for the child to calm his heart, though he can only remember the first part of it. It's the best he can do, the rest is up to Link. Once more returning to the crying child, the first part of the melody draws his attention and sparks his interest. He knows what Link is trying to play, and he can teach him the rest of the Goron lullaby. This sweet melody will put to rest any Goron who hears the tune. Accompanying this lesson are memories from the child, of his father playing the song for him when the sky had grown dark and it was time to rest his eyes. Playing this here now, all the sheltering Gorons in the shrine draw up and fall into a slumber. At least for now, the wailing of the child has ended, and it's time to get up to Snowhead. The route to the top of the mountain is arduous, with monsters cluttering the road and snow rolling down the slopes. It's only traversable by a Goron that can leap the gaps, effectively keeping outsiders away from the temple. Something is blocking the final stretch towards Snowhead, though. A strong gust of wind keeps Link from progressing, but it's as though it's coming from nowhere. After some awkwardness and frustration, Tattle tells Link that something is in the blizzard, and who would have thought? The lens of truth reveals a massive Goron sitting atop Snowhead, causing all the turbulence. The Goron's lullaby calms the raging spirit, putting it to sleep, and sending it careening into the abyss below. Whoops. Well, at least now the way into Snowhead is open. While at first the height and confounding design of the temple is daunting, there's a strange order to it, making it a test of patience to climb. An odd assortment of villains call this place home, ensuring that the ascent is far from uneventful, and here Link obtains a valuable addition to his bow, an arrow tipped in flame. But the true goal lies high above all else here, locked behind a great door. Beyond it is the source of what troubles the mountain and its inhabitants. Encased in ice is a mechanical beast. It's harmless in its current form, and untouchable, which means Link has to break it free and force the fight to take place against this construct called Goat. It holds the inhabitants of the mountain and the next giant captive. Around and around it goes, rampaging through its halls, forcing Link to take cover or give chase across this dizzying arena. But Goat is not blind to his intentions, and launches long-range attacks against the hero with shocking accuracy. Within the land of Termina, this is a battle that rages on deep into the third day. Link and Goat chase one another and fight it out. After a long, exhaustive conflict, finally, Link takes Goat down. With the destruction of this monster, the blizzards plaguing the mountains cease, and the snow begins to melt away, and the second great giant is freed from its bonds. Though it cannot act against the Skull Kid now, when the time comes, it will be an ally to Link in stopping the madness enveloping this land. The giant is able to tell Tattle that they are guardians, protective gods of this land, and that is all it tells them before departing and returning Link to Termina. Time is running out for this cycle. There's a brief time that Link can walk the revitalized mountain before it all has to be undone. But, at least for a short time, the elder of the Gorons has made it back home alive. The blacksmith is back in business, those encased in ice are freed once again. Everything gets back to relative normalcy. There's some time to return to Clock Town as well to see what errands Link can complete with his time. But nothing really pops out at him, so he decides to go tour around the fields a bit. He ventures to a corner of the land that he had not yet explored. It was once blocked off by a massive rock, but now it's open. It takes him to a place called Romani Ranch, a truly lovely place. And who would have thought? Epona is here, safe and sound, being housed in a pen attached to the main house. Thank goodness she's all right. The Skull Kid didn't actually harm her, but there's no way to get her out. And the first person that Link meets is a girl about his age, a familiar face, but of course, someone completely different. Her name is Romani, and she's acting unusual. Something is very, very wrong with this girl. In the barn, her older sister Kremia worries and frets over her little sister's sudden change in behavior, and she comments about their precious cows, but there are no cows here to be found. Something horrible happened, but neither of the sisters can put to words exactly what. They're both traumatized. This ranch will need to be investigated when time allows, but there's just not time right now. It's too late. Time is nearly out. He knows what will happen when he plays the Song of Time. He knows there's no way to avoid it. It's time to undo all that has been done, to reverse time and start all over again. Though hearts have been mended and sorrows alleviated, in the end it won't matter. If he stays here, then Termina will be destroyed by the moon falling, and every bit of good that he has done, he's about to undo it. But what's the point in even questioning it, because he has no choice. He must harden his heart to it. Just don't think about it. Just do what needs to be done. But the eyes of that girl, they haunt him. The Song of Time returns Link and Tattle to the dawn of the first day. There are still distant lands to explore. Next will be the crushing abyss of the ocean.